Aminas was a 14-year-old girl with dreams as vast as the open skies above her rural village in East Africa. She lived in a small, mud brick house with her parents, 3 younger siblings, and her grandmother. The village, nestled among rolling hills and acacia trees, was a place where life moved at a slow, rhythmic pace. The women fetched water from a distant well, the men worked in the fields, and the children played under the watchful eyes of their elders. Aminas was different from many of the other girls in her village. While they were content with the simple life laid out before them, Aminas longed for something more. She was an exceptionally bright student, always finishing her homework by the light of a flickering kerosene lamp after her siblings had gone to bed. Her teachers often spoke of her potential, saying she could become anything she wanted if given the chance. And Aminas knew exactly what she wanted to become: a doctor. She dreamed of one day returning to her village, not as a farmer's wife, but as a healer who could make a real difference in the lives of her people. However, Aminas's dreams were under threat. Her father, Musa, was a proud man who had always provided for his family. But recent years had been tough. The rains had been sparse, the crops had failed, and the family had fallen into debt. Musa was growing desperate. One evening, as the family gathered around the evening meal of maize porridge and greens, Musa cleared his throat and made an announcement that sent a chill down Aminas's spine. "I have decided," he began, his voice heavy, "that it is time for Aminas to be married." The words hung in the air like a thundercloud. Aminas's mother, Fatima, looked down at her hands, her face a mask of resignation. She had known this day would come, though she had hoped it would be later, much later. Aminas felt as though the ground had shifted beneath her feet. Marriage? Now? She was only 14. She had so much she wanted to do, so much she wanted to learn. The idea of being married off to a man she did not love, to be confined to a life of domesticity, was unbearable. "But Baba," Aminas protested, her voice trembling, "I want to finish my education. I want to become a doctor." Musa's eyes softened for a moment, but then he shook his head firmly. "We are struggling, Aminas. The family needs the bride price. It is the only way we can pay our debts and survive. You will marry the man I have chosen, and he will take care of you." Aminas wanted to scream, to shout that this was unfair, that her life should be hers to decide. But she knew that arguing with her father would only make things worse. In their culture, a father's word was law, and a daughter's duty was to obey. She swallowed her protests and nodded silently, her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. That night, Aminas could not sleep. She lay on her mat, staring up at the thatched roof of their small house, tears streaming down her face. She had always been a good daughter, always done what was expected of her. But this was too much. She had worked so hard in school, dreaming of a future where she could help others, where she could escape the cycle of poverty that trapped so many in her village. And now, all of that was slipping away. The next day at school, Aminas's mind was not on her lessons. Her teacher, Mrs. Karanja, a kind woman who had always encouraged Aminas to pursue her dreams, noticed her distraction. After class, she called Aminas aside. "Aminas, is everything all right?" Mrs. Karanja asked, concern etched on her face. Aminas hesitated. She trusted Mrs. Karanja, but she didn't want to burden her with her family's troubles. But the weight of her secret was too much to bear alone. She finally broke down and told her teacher everything, about her father's decision, her dashed dreams, and her fear of the future. Mrs. Karanja listened intently, her heart aching for the young girl standing before her. She knew the challenges Aminas faced all too well. Many of her brightest students had been forced to abandon their education due to early marriage. But she also knew that Aminas was special. She was determined, intelligent, and had a spark that could not be extinguished. "Aminas," Mrs. Karanja said gently, "you are strong, and I believe in you. We will find a way to keep you in school. But you must be brave and patient." A plan takes shape. Over the next few weeks, Aminas continued to attend school, but she knew her time was running out. Her father had already begun negotiations with the family of the man she was to marry, an older, wealthy farmer from a neighboring village. Aminas's mother, sensing her daughter's despair, tried to comfort her, but there was little she could do. She too was bound by the expectations of their society. One afternoon, after school, Mrs. Karanja approached Aminas with a glimmer of hope. She had spoken with the headmaster and some members of the village council who supported education for girls. Together, they had devised a plan. They would appeal to the village elders, presenting the case that Aminas' education would benefit not just her, but the entire community. If they could convince the elders, perhaps Musa would reconsider. Aminas knew it was a long shot. Her father was a stubborn man, and the village elders were steeped in tradition. But it was her only chance. With Mrs. Karanja's guidance, Aminas prepared a speech, practicing it late into the night, her voice barely above a whisper so as not to wake her family. The day of the meeting with the village elders arrived. Aminas' heart pounded in her chest as she walked to the community hall, her mother by her side. Musa was already there, standing with the other men, his expression unreadable. The elders sat in a semicircle, their faces stern and weathered by years of wisdom and hardship. Aminas took a deep breath and stepped forward. She spoke clearly and passionately, explaining why her education was important, not just for her, but for the future of the village. She talked about her dream of becoming a doctor, about how she could one day return and serve her community in ways that few others could. She pleaded for the opportunity to finish her studies, to prove that a girl could do more than just be a wife and mother. When she finished, there was silence. The elders conferred among themselves, their voices low and serious. Musa stood off to the side, his arms crossed, his face a mask of anger and frustration. Aminas' mother clutched her hand, offering silent support. Finally, the head elder spoke. "Aminas, you have shown great courage and wisdom. We see the value in what you are saying, but the decision ultimately lies with your father. We will support you if he chooses to let you continue your education." All eyes turned to Musa. For a long moment, he said nothing, his face betraying no emotion. Aminas' heart sank. She knew her father well, and she feared that his pride and the pressures of tradition would outweigh any arguments she had made. But then, something unexpected happened. Musa looked at his daughter, really looked at her, and in that moment, he saw the fire in her eyes, the determination that reminded him of himself when he was young, before life had beaten him down with its relentless demands. He realized that by marrying her off, he would be extinguishing that fire, snuffing out her potential before it had a chance to shine. With a heavy sigh, Musa spoke. "Aminas, you are my daughter, and I want what is best for you. If continuing your education will bring you happiness and will benefit our village, then I will allow it. But you must work hard and make us all proud." Aminas could hardly believe what she was hearing. Tears of relief welled up in her eyes as she thanked her father, the elders, and Mrs. Karanja, who stood beaming with pride. Aminas returned to school with renewed vigor. She studied harder than ever, determined to make the most of the opportunity she had been given. Her story spread throughout the village, inspiring other girls to pursue their education and encouraging parents to reconsider the traditional roles assigned to their daughters. As the years passed, Aminas excelled in her studies, eventually winning a scholarship to attend a university in the city. She became the first girl from her village to attend university, a milestone that brought great pride to her family and community. And true to her word, Aminas returned to her village as a doctor. She set up a small clinic, providing much-needed medical care to her people. Her father, once skeptical of her dreams, now proudly introduced her as, "My daughter, the doctor." Aminas' silent struggle had not been in vain. She had not only achieved her dreams but had also paved the way for future generations of girls to dream big and to fight for their right to an education. In the end, her courage and determination had changed not just her own life, but the lives of countless others. Aminas' story is a testament to the power of education, the importance of perseverance, and the strength it takes to challenge societal norms. It is a reminder that sometimes, the most significant changes start with one person's silent struggle against the odds.